This is a video about mystery of longevity of social insects, and it is part 1, bees. I highly recommend you to download presentation in the description. Link is in the description, and maybe go to the links so you can click on links and get a deeper knowledge because it is, again, I believe it's very important to understand why bee queens live much longer than working bees. Okay, let's go. As, as I said in previous video, in the introduction, the social species with advanced level of social organizations are characterized by reproductive and non-reproductive castes, that is, queens and workers in such insects like ants, wasps, bees, termites. Termites and ants comprise only about 1% of insect species, but represent more than 50% of the insect biomass. There are a few advanced social mammals, such as naked mole rat, and but it's mostly we have deal with insects. From a viewpoint of longevity, the most interesting aspect of the advanced social insects is that queens live much longer than workers, while workers and queens are genetically identical. Okay, so this is classification of animals, so that sometimes people think that insects are not animals. No, insects are animals, and we share with mammals share with insects quite many aspects of the biology. So we can follow the knowledge which we get from insects. We can use it for mammals, for ourselves. A bee queen lives up to 6 years, while working bees live a few months maximum. How can bee queen live so long? Considering that queens and workers are genetically identical, it is a mystery. Development of a bee queen is controlled epigenetically by feeding for lifelong entirely with royal jelly. And in difference from worker bees that are getting a royal jelly only 3 first days of the larva development, and later on working bees larvae are fed by bee bread, that is a mixture of pollen, nectar, and honey. Bee bread consists of carbohydrates, proteins, fatty acids, minerals, and vitamins, all from pollen. It is a natural source of many essential vitamins, including vitamins A, B1, B2, B3, B6, C, E, D, K, and minerals. So you see that even fat-soluble vitamins are here present, in difference from royal jelly, for example. Honeybee, we see here how they look. Queen is much larger than worker bees, even if it develops in a larva stage much quicker than worker bees. And drones, of course, drones have big eyes, and but they cannot get food themselves. They are fed by worker bees. Worker bees live on bee bread, and carbohydrates prevail as an energy source. In royal jelly, sugars and fats are a source of energy, while proteins are necessary for the bee queen to produce eggs and to grow when it is a larva. Also, humans are not insects. The composition of royal jelly in comparison with bee bread gives us a hint on how to extend our healthy and productive life. By the content of minerals, royal jelly is very different from any human diet. Amount of potassium 20 times higher than amount of sodium. Phosphorus is 15 times more than sodium. Magnesium content is 2.5 times higher than sodium. Calcium is about the same amount as sodium. The amount of zinc is also disproportionately high, also 6 times lower than sodium. So here's at the slide we see the combs are packed with bee bread to grow, to feed both worker bees and larvae of worker bees. Royal jelly is not a plant-based product. It is secreted from the glands in the heads of worker bees. It comprises 67% of water, 12.5% of protein, 11% simple sugars, this is monosaccharides, 6% of fatty acids, and from this 6%, 3.5% that's medium chain fatty acids, which has name royal jelly acid, royal jelly fatty acids. It is very special. Okay, and it also contains trace minerals, vitamin B5 as a magic vitamin. It has 52.8 milligram per 100 gram of raw jelly. Other water-soluble vitamins of B group like B1, B2, B3, B6, B8, B9, B12. Choline is considered also is a part of vitamins of group B. Vitamin C, not so much, but none of the fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. So in difference from B bread, you see that B bread has fat-soluble vitamins. Macronutrients in the raw jelly are balanced by energy. It is protein, has 51 kilocalories per 100 gram of the raw jelly. Fat is 46.5 kilocalories, and carbohydrates 44 kilocalories. Okay, here we see the comb with larva, and we see eggs at the right side of the combs, and we see that larva virtually swimming in the raw jelly in the first days of its development. It grows very quick also. So components we can see here that the phosphorus is very high. Potassium is maybe the highest concentration of the mineral, and magnesium is twice 2.5 higher than sodium, and then the rest is in a smaller amount. But zinc also quite good, quite a lot zinc. Raw jelly contains high amounts of acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that plays a major role in cognitive abilities. Consumption of raw jelly results in high brain levels or in hormones tyrosine, dopamine, and tyramine. Okay, so you can click and check this presentation. Scientific publication, as well as high production of the fertility hormone Tytre, known as to regulate growth of insects. Raw jelly enhances health span and longevity of other species of insects, such as fruit fly, silkworms, crickets, nematodes. It was suggested that vitamin B5 or raw jelly may have an anti-aging effect by itself or by synergizing the impact of other vitamins. On the other hand, the higher concentration of raw jelly resulted in shortened lifespan in both sexes of fruit flies. Intermediate and high doses of powdered raw jelly significantly, 25%, extended the mean lifespan of mice, whereas raw jelly at low dose demonstrated no significant effect. Meanwhile, all doses of powdered raw jelly, contrary to bee and Drosophila studies, had no effect on mice growth, food intake, or appearance compared with the control mice. Similarly, long-term intragastric administration of raw jelly to an aging mice model resulted in numerous anti-aging and health span effects. So again, long-term consumption of raw jelly is very helpful for health. Raw jelly inhibits the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines by activated macrophages. And administration of raw jelly to healthy athletes significantly decreased their insulin and increased thyroxine hormone levels in plasma. Healthy adults who consumed a single oral dose of raw jelly, 20 grams, it is quite a lot, immediately before oral glucose tolerance test showed significantly reduced glucose level in the blood. Okay. Then raw jelly modulates sex hormones in humans. That raw jelly supplementation to healthy male volunteers increased serum testosterone. So we see that raw jelly it has a lot of acetylcholine, which is very important for work of our nervous system and especially brain, and it produces such hormones, including growth hormone and including testosterone, that it for young kids, for young children, it helps to grow. The health span extending effects of raw jelly in humans are not limited to enhancement of the physical health, but also include improvement in general mental health. No wonder, because acetylcholine is the main neurotransmitter. Raw jelly used orally and topically may support wound healing and other inflammatory skin conditions. One animal study revealed an increase in collagen production in rats given raw jelly extract. Oral administration of raw jelly increased lifespan and improved cognitive performance in rats. In a bee colony, the sterile worker bees follow the same progression of jobs as they are aging. Very young bees do cleaning of the comb cells. Then they care about larvae and serve the bee queen. And they feed also a bee queen. Raw jelly is secreted by these new bees and to feed young larvae and the bee queen. Next in time, they are building honeycombs. Further, next in time, their duty is to ventilate air in the beehive and guard the entrance and remove waste from the hive. Later on, they start to work as foragers to collect pollen and nectar from flowers. And only elder bees become soldiers. Soldiers are not guarding the entrance, but they are guarding the environment, the area around the beehive. So they attack and sting intruders. So we see this life cycle of working bees. First, they're cleaning the hives, then they are producing raw jelly, only days 3 to 12. Producing raw jelly, and they help bee queen to lay eggs and to prepare the cells for eggs. And then they produce wax, special glands. They produce wax and they build the combs. And then, then they come to the hive, to the beehive entrance, and they ventilate air, and they also guard the hive from intrusion of other insects. And then day 23 to 43, they collect nectar and pollen, and only when they are very old, but then they have enough of poison. I mean, this poison they produce, and so they can sting the intruders, like mammals or like bears or whatever. And also they can fight large insects like wasps. So here we see how the bee queen, served by young workers, they feed the bee queen with raw jelly. So we have here the adult, the life cycle of the working bee. And then, despite the fact that bee queens live much longer compared with worker bees, queens enjoy useful and vigorous cellular function and lower expression of oxidative stress in their bodies. That wasn't attributed, at least in part, to the impact of raw jelly on the microbiota composition and microbiota-derived metabolites in the bee queens. The gut microbiota or microbiome of the short-lived workers that feast on honey and pollen is deficient in healthy bacteria and metabolites that prevent oxidative stress. This is very interesting, that again. So it is very different. I will go to this slide later. In mammals, gut microbiome includes a wide variety of microorganisms consisting of trillions of bacteria, fungi, and viruses. This microbiome population coexists in symbiosis with the host. Short-chain fatty acids namely acetate, propionate, and butyrate produced by the gut microbiota as the main fermentation products of fibers. Resistant starch and chitin serve as a major energy source for the intestinal epithelium layer, not the crude fibers, but this resistant starch and chitin can be digested by bacteria and produce the short-chain fatty acids. Moreover, microbial metabolites can have a profound effect on gut physiology and can be essential for the host health and behavior. So not the advising of the medical professionals are not all wrong. So this microbiome produce short-chain fatty acids. The only question is what substances are used to feed the friendly and healthy bacteria. This is the problem. Okay, so as we see here, then this healthy bacteria, they produce lactate, propionate, acetate, and especially butyric acid, and salts of butyric acid, and these friendly bacteria like lactobacteria and bifidobacteria. But what they use mostly fructose and other sugars, and then there are also bacteria that go fermentation and they remove oxygen from the guts, because oxygen can migrate from blood to the inside of the guts. But here it is the picture of guts of insects, of the bees, not our guts, because here we see instead of blood we have hemolymph. Okay, here it is again a result of how intestinal microbiome, and especially this healthy bacteria, bifidobacteria and lactobacterium, they produce short-chain fatty acid. And short-chain fatty acids, they are very, very useful to feed the epithelium layer of the guts in both in humans and other animals, and especially insects. For now we are talking about insects. And the lack of the epithelium layer does not get enough short-chain fatty acids, then some problems may develop. It is like proliferation of tumor or cancer, and also high release of pro-inflammatory cytokines by macrophages. Okay, so macrophages react to the shortage of the short-chain fatty acids, so that they produce this pro-inflammatory signal molecules, and so that develop chronic inflammation can develop. Honeybees are associated with specific intestinal microbiota that are simpler, of course, than a microbiota found in mammals. In stark contrast to aging workers, a microbiome in queens is significantly associated with increased lactobacterus and bifidobacterium, because these are healthy bacteria, and then the content of this proteobacteria, which is harmful bacteria, so it is reducing in age. With age, it is reducing. The pattern of age-associated succession in the queen microbiota is largely the reverse of the demonstrated for workers. The guts of short-lived workers phenotypes are progressively dominated with pathogens by these three major proteobacteria. Okay, so at this slide we see how the microbiome is changing in bees and queen bees and working bees. So you see that short-lived working phenotype in time when they eat plant-based food, the number of lactobacterus and bifidobacterium bacteria is dropping, but this pathological bacteria is increasing, and then they produce this chronic inflammation and the damage of the guts. But meanwhile, long-lived queen, they have different. They have different amount of this healthy lactobacterium and bifidobacterium is growing. Pathogens are decreasing. Insulin signaling is decreasing. Antioxidant level is decreasing also. That in difference of the worker bees. So when worker bees are relatively young, they have relatively good microbiome, and then they produce this raw jelly, and then this raw jelly has no toxins. So this is good for the larva and the queen bee. But then when they grow, they already not much healthy. They don't have healthy content of the microbiome. Gut microbiome in adult bees degrades plant pectin from pollen cells walls and that are otherwise indigestible by the bees, and several sugars that are harmful to bees, and the resulting metabolites contribute to host nutrition. Okay, but gut microbiome increased honeybee whole body weight in young age, of course, gut weight and hormonal signaling and sucrose sensitivity during the first days following the emergence of the bee from the larva, from the larva and from. Okay, so and then a larger mass may assist in the initial task of the young bees as nurses within the hive, whereas older bees, more than 20 days old, are known to lose weight. And of course they are losing weight both because they produce protein they produce from their own body, the weight is dropping because this bee bread has not enough of protein. So the body weight of this young bees start to drop, and after when they are older than 20 days. And during the feeding of the queen and larva also it drops a little bit. So now we are coming to the dangers of the this vegetables and fruits. So glyphosate, so like Roundup, you probably know, is used widely in agriculture to kill weeds, especially annual broadleaf weeds and grasses that compete with crops. Glyphosate is blocking synthesis of the aromatic amino acids, and this is tyrosine and triphosphate and phenylalanine, and so this very essential amino acids for us. And acute oral toxicity for mammals considered as low somehow, 1 milligram per kilo of weight per day for chronic toxicity. But yet exposing bees to this glyphosate alters the bees' gut community. It does not kill them directly, but the guts are getting different. Microbiome in the guts gets disturbed, and so what it is increases susceptibility to infection by opportunistic pathogens. As a result, working bees grow more slowly as larvae, die earlier, and have trouble finding their way back to the hive after foraging nectar and pollen. Glyphosate is similar in structure to one of your essential amino acids, glycine. If glyphosate takes the spot intended for glycine in the production of proteins, the protein will be incomplete and unable to perform their function of building and maintaining health of the cells. Moreover, such incomplete and misfolded proteins accumulate inside the cells and disrupt their metabolism and resulting in a lower production of ATP and higher reactive oxygen species production by mitochondria. So eventually such cells may be transformed into senescent cells or zombie cells and cancer cells. Consequences of the chronic inflammation caused by senescent cells include obesity, diabetes, food intolerances, allergy, and accelerated aging, of course. Okay, we see how glycine and glyphosate chemically structured. So you see that they look similar, and they can, they can disturb the production of proteins. The glyphosate will disturb production of important proteins. In main pathogens, Salmonella and Clostridium are highly resistant to glyphosate, whereas beneficial bacteria, it is Enterococcus, bifidobacteria, and Lactobacterium are especially susceptible. Okay. Several studies have shown that glyphosate residues in honey, soybeans, dry peas, tea, buckwheat, barley, wheat, and rye may result in development of so-called leaky gut syndrome, and also cancer and wide spectrum of autoimmune and degenerative diseases. Therefore, so-called healthy plant-based diets are substantially shorten health span both in mammals and bees, and obviously longevity also suffered from this. Getting lifespan gets shorter, of course. So we see how it works for bacteria. Some bacteria are resistant to glyphosate, and they are okay. They can produce this aromatic amino acids. They multiply, they grow in numbers. But meanwhile, sensitive bacteria, they cannot produce these aromatic amino acids, and then it is estimated that a number of sensitive bacteria sensitive to glyphosate about 54, but again it is just very optimistic evaluation, because in time it is getting much smaller content. Okay, what we have that if we have enough production of short chain fatty acids, then our macrophages and T cells are producing not so much information, the signaling molecules, these cytokines, and which may result in chronic inflammation. But if they don't have enough of these short chain fatty acids, they produce pro-inflammatory cytokines in large amount, and then it results in chronic inflammation. For now, calorie restriction, low protein diet, and rapamycin-based drugs to inhibit the mTOR and producing of the proteins in the adulthood are considered as the most reliable methods to get life extension. This is incredible. Yeah, it's funny. What official in this medical professionals advice? It is again, and also these people who benefiting from research in longevity, what they advise, and it is incredible. It is not science, of course. However, nature demonstrates a completely different approach to extend the lifespan of bee queens in comparison with genetically identical working bees. Healthy, fertile queens are very active and capable of laying eggs almost constantly. During the peak season, a high-quality bee queen can lay over 3,000 eggs per day. That is more than her own body weight in eggs in one day, with no calorie restriction and high protein food. Queens demonstrate very high metabolic rate. So it was demonstrated that in queen destined larvae, the mTOR inhibitor rapamycin, which is again considered the best life extender, rapamycin induces the development of worker characteristic and therefore much shortens longevity of these bees. Furthermore, the queen fate is associated with elevated activity of the TOR, but it is not mammalian target of rapamycin, not mTOR, but Apis mellifera TOR and target of rapamycin, encoding genes, so the genes which produce this Apis mellifera target of rapamycin, so it is helps to produce proteins. So in knockdown of these genes, blocks queen fate and results in individuals with the worker morphology. Okay, so if larva is getting rapamycin together with raw jelly, it is not then not queen develops but working bee with morphology of the working bee. Very similar suppression of the Drosophila target of rapamycin pathway results in prolonged pre-adult development and reduces larval and adult body sizes. Again, looking at insects, we see that rapamycin is shortens longevity and results in some underdevelopment of the larvae, and so it's again complete craziness to advise rapamycin as a lifespan extension. According to biological classification, bees are animals, as I said before, and belong to the class Insecta. So, royal jelly is animal-derived food. It does not include any plant-based ingredients, okay? So just look at this. So queen bees, they eating always this animal-derived food. The microbiome is flourishing, everything is fine, they live 6 years, and actually their life longevity is not limited by somehow genetic or whatever. They're just running out of sperm, which they are getting only once in the beginning of their life from drones, and in difference from termites, for example. So it is 6 years, it is not the limit. It is if they will receive raw jelly, they can live much longer. They die not because of the some degenerated diseases. They die because they cannot produce any longer fertilized eggs, and then the bees kill this old queen, and new queen will replace the old queen. Okay, it's not because of the degenerated diseases or because she's getting weak. Not at all. They just running out of sperm cells. And however, again, so we may tentatively explain the big difference in longevity of working bees and bee queens by difference in their diet. Okay, so bees consume plant-based diet, which is nectar, bee pollen, with the flower pollen from flowers, and also some honey with enzymes. But they have a lot of fibers in sense of this wall cells of the pollen. But queens don't have these fibers. Meanwhile, the friendly, healthy bacteria are flourishing. They're increasing in number. However, okay, following the strict carnivore diet, okay, it's what we conclusion can make that we don't need fibers, or almost don't need fibers, and we can follow strict carnivore diet alone. But then, if we look around again, nature and humans, we see that carnivore diet alone does not extend substantially the lifespan of humans and may result in higher risk of malnutrition because this animal food may be not present, not available. So then, with the cases of malnutrition, infectious diseases, and the worms infestation may develop. For example, child mortality is high in Maasai tribes who rely on carnivore diet in comparison with neighboring ethnic groups practicing agriculture. That's true. There's beautiful people, very strong, very they have beautiful physique, but yet look how they live. No hygiene, no clean water. Okay, then despite these very nasty conditions, living conditions, they yet survive, and they look fantastically strong and fantastically healthy till very old age. But child mortality is very high, unfortunately, for them. So the gut microbiota can influence mucosal barrier function both directly by stimulating epithelium cells proliferation and indirectly by producing short-chain fatty acids, which are important energy source for the colonic epithelium cells. Again, somehow we have to accept that these short-chain fatty acids, we need them. Another question, how to produce them. It's actually collagen can be a source of the short-chain fatty acids. So if we consume meat, grinded meat, for example, with a lot of collagen, then it helps. The bacteria can produce short-chain fatty acids from collagen. And but again, we may see a decrease in bifidobacteria in the elderly population in humans and aging workers. Both humans consume some fibers, fruits, and vegetables, and because our diet is based on plant-based food mostly. And worker bees, they eat pollen, and they have from pollen these fibers, as in a form of walls of the pollen. And the decline in bifidobacteria and lactobacteria population with aging was accompanied by decrease in bacteria species diversity. Okay, so it's again, they're not getting, despite this aging bees, working bees, they rely on this plant-based diet. The microbiome degenerates. This decline was associated with reduction in adhesion to the intestinal mucosa, but it is not clear if it is due to the changes in the structure of mucosa or not. So it is again so, but it needs more research. But what we see, infants who don't consume any fibers, they drink milk, they drink breast milk, they are fine. They have a lot of healthy bacteria and only a small amount of this pathogenic bacteria. And but the longer we live, the smaller the amount of the healthy bacteria in our gut. So we can make logical conclusion that if we have so many pathological and not friendly bacteria, and we have very few of bifidobacteria and lactobacteria, then our guts produce a lot of, and macrophages produce a lot of pro-inflammatory signal molecules, and humans develop chronic inflammation. Eventually, it leads to explosion and growth in numbers of the senescent cells, and people die. Okay, we compare again with bees. Bees, number of amount of this healthy bacteria, lactobacteria and bifidobacterium, is growing in time. It is getting better. It is getting even closer to the infants. Okay, and so it is kind of rejuvenation we see in the queen bee. Meanwhile, workers who rely on plant-based food, they have about the same aging process as humans, even much quicker. So you decide for yourself what is good for you, what kind of food you have to consume. And again, as I said, even carnivore diet, strict carnivore diet, will make you more healthy for sure. But question of longevity is another question. I'm working on it personally, and I have some idea, but I have to prove it. And yet I am not ready to share this information, these findings with public. Okay, so we see here that short-chain fatty acids can produce that are produced by healthy bacteria. They are feeding the epithelium layer. They result also in production of more mucus, this green layer of mucus, and mucus protect our guts from viruses and opportunistic bacteria. But if opportunistic bacteria that can get in contact with epithelium layer, they just destroy this epithelium layer. They produce, and through this gap, bacteria, viruses, and toxins are getting inside our this body. So mucus layer is very, very important. And again, mucosal layer functions as a mucosal layer functions as a barrier, a lubricant, and immune cells signal, and reservoir of signaling peptides, and a habitat for ingenious and enteric bacteria. The intestinal mucous layer is produced by specialized cells known as goblet cells. Remarkably, that the small intestine only has one mucous layer, jelly layer, whereas the colon has two layers. It's not one actually, because the colon is mostly populated by bacteria, and small intestine not so much. So again, so we have in colon we have two layers, an outer quite loose layer that allows the long-term colonization of this bacteria, and which are crucial for in the colon, this bifidobacteria and also the lactobacteria, and an inner denser cells, denser layer which devote from bacteria, and it works as a filter for nutrients. And in the mammalian intestine, goblet cells synthesize and secrete the mucin protein. The mucus is mostly comprised from water, but also mucin proteins, they keep the gel, they keep the mucus. So we see here in small intestine, then only one layer of mucus, and we see that bacteria can live in this mucus, and healthy bacteria, lactobacteria and Helicobacter, okay, so it is a relatively healthy bacteria. They produce short-chain fatty acids, and which are important for our guts, for our epithelium. We have to consider that the epithelium layer always it's growing very quick, and then we are losing this mucus in time, of course, but more mucus is produced by goblet cells, so it is okay, it is natural process. And if lactobacterium, bifidobacteria don't get enough of the nutrients, they can eat this mucus. But again, considering that we have always a renovation, so new mucus is produced, then it is actually not so bad. And even in carnivore diet, sugars, some carbohydrates can be present in small amount, like glycogen. Glycogen can be used with this bacteria to produce short-chain fatty acids, but we are talking about glycogen which is in raw form. It is not treated by, if it is not treated by steam or hot water, because otherwise it can be splitted by our enzymes to glucose. Okay, in the colon we have different situation. We have this two layers of mucus, because we need more protection from bacteria. In large intestine we have a lot of bacteria, different bacteria, and again some friendly healthy bacteria protect us, and they produce short-chain fatty acids to feed the epithelium layer, to feed the goblet cells, and then more mucus is produced. But pathological bacteria, they produce only toxins and some stinking gas. So it's again we have to check how we are feeding this bacteria. And infants digest lactose using an enzyme lactase. It breaks down the lactose to glucose and galactose, which can be easily absorbed into the bloodstream. Unlike glucose, fructose, and galactose cannot be used directly by our cells. Instead, the metabolism of the galactose occurs almost entirely in the liver. So again, I don't say the galactose and fructose are good for us. We better restrict this amount. Don't think that if these infants are getting a lot of lactose, but again, they develop quick. It is a good source of energy for them. But big queens don't rely on sugars so much. And actually, situation is such that the sugars are mostly digested by bacteria. And these bacteria, friendly bacteria, produce short-chain fatty acids from sugars. and which are present in raw jelly. So this is some anaero stripes strain bacteria, which is common in healthy microbiome of infants, is known for their capability of producing butyric acid, butyrates, as well as lactate and acetate, short chain fatty acids from sugars. Okay, this is how the kids are getting short chain fatty acids. They're getting fat, of course, a lot of fat from human breast milk, but the sugars are used by bacteria to produce short chain fatty acids. They are not all go to the blood. The same bacteria can utilize myoinositol, I don't know how to produce myoinositol, and this is kind of sugar which is not much sweet. And inositol, again, it is a very good source of this short chain fatty acids, very good food for bacteria. So that and it is raw jelly has a lot of this inositol, and that this bacteria produce equal amounts of propionate and acetate, but not so much of formate and lactate and butyrate. But okay, at least some production of short chain fatty acids go even from inositol, and inositol is big part of sugars in the raw jelly. For comparison with raw jelly, human breast milk contains 87-89% of water, 124 grams of solid components as macronutrients, including 75 grams per liter of lactose, 1% of protein, 3.8% of fat, and about 8% of carbohydrates, including 7% of lactose, 1 to 2.4 inositol. This is what I was talking about, that inositol can be very healthy, and personally I take it. And oligosaccharides that act as prebiotics, feeding healthy bacteria in the infant's gut. So you see that again, babies, infants are not getting any fibers, any plant-based food, but they are able to produce short chain fatty acids from these sugars, including inositol, including lactose, even if it is ogalactose. That's they can the bacteria can live on it. Actually, they are flourishing. So, and that's also this human breast milk contains enzymes, growth factor, micro RNA, minerals, and vitamins. And human breast milk comprises mostly fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and K, but also water-soluble vitamins of B group. The ratio of protein to fat is about 0.26 for human breast milk and 1.3 for raw jelly. Okay, so again, queens need protein to grow when they are larvae, and also to produce eggs when they are already grown and when they are fertile. The ratio of fat to carbohydrates is only 0.54 for human breast milk and 0.86 for raw jelly. So you see that queens, to live long, they use more fat as source of energy than babies. Okay, then again, maybe this is a good idea that to reduce amount of carbohydrates, or maybe to put it to zero, because anyway, carbohydrates are not so important for us. We can produce carbohydrates, in particular glucose, in the liver, produce it from proteins. It's not a big problem for us if we cut carbohydrates completely, but actually we cannot cut them completely. If we consume muscle and organs, they are full of glycogen. So glycogen, and so it's not so that we, if we follow strict carnivore diet, we are not getting carbohydrates. We get, but not much. So just be aware that, for example, inositol is good because it is not working like glucose. It is digested different way, and inositol is a good food for healthy bacteria. So the dominating paradigm of the professional dietitians is to consume more fruits and vegetables as sources of fiber. It is necessary to distinguish crude fibers and soluble fibers. Crude fiber is the insoluble part of the plants, including plant cell walls, which consist of cellulose, lignin, and pentosan. Crude fibers damage a mucous layer on the inside of guts. This is again very important. So again, it is like sandpaper takes all this very soft layer of mucus. So, and the mucus is viscoelastic secretion that is composed of water, 95% up to 95%, electrolytes and proteins. The specific mucus proteins that are called mucins are the major structural and functional components and present in the mucus in concentration up to 5%. So, okay, the crude fibers, this was always advised as this full grain bread, for example, and this grains, not to mention that grains have a lot of toxins. They are promoted as healthy food. Okay, look what it is making to working bees. They're aging, they live much shorter than queens. Queens don't get any fibers. Soluble fiber dissolves in water and includes plant pectin and gums. A problem with soluble fiber such as pectin is that fermentation of pectin produces toxic methanol. Medical professionals claim that humans need fibers and cell walls from plant-based food to increase the mass of the healthy bacteria that produce these short-chain fatty acids. However, practical results of the plant-based diet are completely opposite. Nowadays, the glyphosate in plant-based food is eliminating healthy bacteria, while crude fiber is scratching the inside of the guts and removing the protecting layer of mucus. So the syndrome of the leaky gut develops in older age and with chronic inflammation, and autoimmune diseases, not to mention that many vegetables have a very high concentration of oxalic acid. So we have this so-called soluble fiber, which is very much promoted. Again, forget about this. In my opinion, that okay, don't rely on any plant-based food. In my opinion, the only benefit from the plant-based food is that the crude fibers will reduce digestion of polyunsaturated vegetable oils. However, practically it is easier to eliminate these toxic vegetable oils from the diet. So, conclusion is that the plant-based food damages the guts and damages the microbiome. And as we may see from scientific research, infants have more healthy bacteria in their guts than adults, while they don't eat plant-based food. So can you think logically? Okay. And so they don't consume plant-based food, and by opinion of the health professionals, they should have small amount of the healthy bacteria, but it is quite opposite. The more we eat plant-based food, the less of friendly healthy bacteria we have, and more some of this damaging bacteria damaging us, and then that make us inflamed. At the same time, we may see in comparison of microbiomes of aging bee queens and the working bees. Okay, you see that bee queens never consume the plant-based food, and working bees are feeding on it. So complete difference. Microbiomes development goes in opposite ways. Working bees are getting fibers in the form of cell walls from bee bread and develop dysbacteriosis in time. Bee queens get none of the fibers, yet healthy bacteria are flourishing in their guts. So you can make a conclusion, especially, okay, as I said, that all the so-called vegetable oils, it is actually seed oils, they're absolutely toxic, and they're cholesterol-free, sodium-free. Okay, it's ridiculous. They have a lot of oxidized fatty acids, which are very toxic, and then these fibers, crude fibers, they reduce digestion of these toxic substances. So the only, but again, much better, much easier just to stop it. Stop vegetable oils, stop this plant-based food. Considering that both infants and big queens don't consume any fibers but demonstrate the most healthy microbiome, we may tentatively conclude that for health and life extension we don't need any fibers. Personally, I accept that resistant starch and powdered dry mushrooms may help to keep healthy microbiome, remove toxins from the human body, reduce reduce pH, so it make it a little bit more acidic in the colon, the environment in the colon, and then it stimulates peristalsis. And short-chain fatty acids, including acetate, propionate, butyrate, and valerate, can be produced by fermentation of resistant starch and chitin from mushrooms, and I would add also some collagen from meat. It also can produce short-chain fatty acids. In past, seed oils were used in industry to protect wood from insects and fungi, and to lubricate moving parts of the machinery or as a fuel for illumination. But company Procter & Gamble filed a patent application in 1910, beginning of 20th century, describing a food product consisting of vegetable oil, preferably cottonseed oil, and partially hydrogenated, so transformed to the trans fat, and hardened to a homogeneous white or yellowish semi-solid substance closely resembling lard. Okay, so in the 50s it was claimed by so-called health professionals that saturated fats in lard cause heart disease. Since then, the use of industrial seed oils in food was growing, and industrial seed oils contain oxidized polyunsaturated fats that are very harmful in comparison with monounsaturated and saturated fat. And okay, we can consider that monounsaturated fats like olive oil and avocado oil are very expensive, and actually they're mostly that's fake. You better rely on butter and animal-based fats, which are absolutely healthy, or you can use also saturated fats from coconut oil. So this is the best use of the vegetable oils. It is to protect wood, including from termites, from insects. Okay, this I express my personal opinion. Yeah, okay, please mind that I don't provide health consulting. This is just my opinion. I'm interested to extend my health span and lifespan. Therefore, a visitor of my channel is advised to discuss the content of this video with his or her personal physician and only act upon the advice of professional medical experts. I don't want to interfere with medical industry, okay, in pharmaceutical industry. This is the giants, they have a lot of money. And I was talking about in previous videos that billions and trillions, actually, trillions American dollars are invested in so-called longevity research, which has till now no results, absolutely no results. All the advising like to use rapamycin based drugs to extend our life, it's complete I don't know, insanity, to my opinion. As a professional scientist, I look at it, I cannot understand. People blind, or they do it in purpose, I don't know, okay. But personally, no. Unfortunately for me, I started this project not so long ago, so I advance for sure. I get much better health in time, but yet it takes time. It takes time to show that and to rejuvenate my body. And but already I'm quite good. Thank you for your time to watch the video. If you were so patient to go through, I recommend again to download presentation. You will see always some links to research, and you will get more information. Please mind again that I don't disclose everything. Some procedures which I try on myself because I don't have animals to try on it on them. I try on myself and rely on my feeling and my health. So this I would not I would not disclose it. It is sometimes I consider it's very toxic. You can be killed by some substances what I consume. But for me, if I know the procedure, how to do it, how in what dosages and what circumstances, then I feel sometimes, I mean, at least after the gym, I feel myself as a Superman. It is life. I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I want to live forever. Okay, please comment, subscribe, like, ask question, and share information. Have a wonderful day.